Da-na, da-na, bong, 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 bong. My wife hates that song. She hates it. But yeah, this is a 2001 Space Odyssey, Dawn of Man. The monolith, remember that scene? It's in the morning. There's a clan of monkeys that are all asleep. And the sun is rising. And one of the monkeys wakes up and he looks out and he sees the monolith. And basically what that represents, it's a symbol for his idea. So the one monkey is waking up to his idea and seeing his idea. And what does he do, right? What does that monkey do? He wakes up the other monkeys. That's what he does. And he's like, hey, check this out. Check this thing out. Check out my idea. And the other monkeys, they wake up and they look at it, they see the monolith, they see his idea, and they just get really pumped. I don't know if you remember that scene, but they're just jumping up and down around the monolith. They're excited. They're curious. They're afraid of it. You know, they don't know what it is, but they are definitely excited by it. So, you know, fast forward a few thousand years, and there's a new monolith on the scene. It's the Bitcoin monolith. And, you know, it's the same thing. There's a lot of monkeys that are excited about it, jumping up and down about it. There's some monkeys like Warren Buffett. You know, he looks at the Bitcoin and he doesn't see anything. He sees, at best, he sees a speculative bubble. He doesn't see any power in Bitcoin. And, you know, he's a pretty smart guy. He is, and I would tend to agree with him, you know, except I have two eyes that are connected to my brain, and I can look out into the world, and I can make my own mind up. I can make my own decision about Bitcoin and whether it has any power, and that's what I did. And one of the things I saw when I did that is I saw this website called Silk Road. And some of you might know what Silk Road is. What it is it's basically the eBay for illegal drugs. You know, instead of socks and underwear, people are selling MDMA and cocaine. But as you can see, the price of each item is in Bitcoin. The media covered this, you know, back when it was a going concern, and the media covered it, and they covered it mainly, they talked about mainly how it was this nefarious website that sold illegal drugs. That's what their main focus was, the media. What they didn't talk about was that this website was powered by Bitcoin. At the core of this website is Bitcoin. This website wasn't possible without Bitcoin. And this website was one of the most successful websites of all time, and if it was allowed to continue, I submit that it could have become the most valuable website of all time. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry. I think it would have overcome Amazon if it was allowed to continue, but of course the government wasn't going to allow that. You know, they shut down the site. Not only did they shut down the site, they arrested the founder. They prosecuted him, they convicted him, and they sentenced him not to 1 life sentence, but to 2 life sentences, okay? His name is Ross Ulbricht. He was about 32 years old when he was arrested. He's about 34 now. He's in prison. He's going to die in prison. He doesn't even get the Morgan Freeman, you know, Shawshank Redemption chance at the parole board. He doesn't even get that. That guy is going to die in prison. There's a movement to try to get him out. They're not going to let him out. So the point is, the government was so threatened by this that they put this man in prison for life. First to punish him, but mostly to send a message to the rest of the monkeys in the world. Don't do this. You know, don't misuse the power of Bitcoin, because if you do, this is going to be the result. So there's another website I saw with my eyes. This website is called Nitrogen Sports. And what it is, it's an online gambling sports book. And You know, you make sports bets, like go bet on the Super Bowl. But unlike other online sports books, with this website, you bet with Bitcoin, okay? And this is a screenshot. This is a screenshot from that website. This screenshot, this page, this is not their how it works page or about page, learn more page. This is their home page. When you go to this website, this is what is displayed at their home page. Nitrogen Sports is powered by Bitcoin. I mean, that's pretty brazen. This is also an illegal venture. It's still going. They haven't shut this one down. But are you kidding? I mean, the founder, like, are you kidding? What's wrong with you? Don't you realize this guy from the Silk Road, the founder, was thrown in prison? These guys don't even care. I mean, eventually the government might shut it down. And maybe even throw him in for prison for life, but they don't care. They're just brazen about it. They're not even afraid to say that this website is, at the core of it is Bitcoin. So, you know, I'm sorry, Mr. Warren Buffett, I have to disagree with you. You know, it's demonstrable that Bitcoin has some serious power. You know, both of these websites obviously are illegal concerns. They're criminal. And so a lot of people, the media, probably everybody in this room, you know, they dismiss Bitcoin because, oh, it's only for criminals. It only powers evil. Or it's only used for evil. But the thing is, you know, for me, that's only confirmation that Bitcoin has power, okay? That Bitcoin powers evil means that it has power. If an innovation didn't power evil, it wouldn't have any power. Every single innovation, since, you know, throughout the history of man, any innovation that has powered evil. So here's an example of something, you know, this is an invention. The Beanie Baby. It didn't power anything, let alone power evil. You know, that's how I knew it was a speculative bubble. Of course, this is a speculative bubble. There's no power in the Beanie Baby. It didn't power anything. So, you know, in the Dawn of Man, there's a scene in the Dawn of Man where, you know, the monkey he's in the desert, and he's looking at this, a bunch of bones from a dead animal, this skeleton of a dead animal, and he's looking at it. He looks at the femur bone of the animal, and da-na, da-na, you know, bong, 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 bong. He's wielding the femur bone. This represents the first invention of man. And during that scene, the monkey uses the femur bone to become a better hunter, more efficient hunter. He uses it for good, and he uses it for evil. In the same scene, the evil he uses it for is to kill his enemy, right? He uses the femur bone for murder, okay? So even the representative first invention of all time was used to power evil. So, you know, Provenance, people have corrected me that pronunciation, but Provenance. Computers have been around for decades, and databases have been around for decades. The internet has even been around for decades. So why haven't we computerized the Provenance database? Why is that, right? Well, I submit that in order to do that, the database needs to have 4 properties. It needs to be permanent, okay? It needs to last not decades or centuries, it needs to last millenniums. It's like the hieroglyphs of the caveman. Okay, it has to last at least 1,000 years. Otherwise, there's no point, right? Why would you go through that effort? It would be a wasted effort. Of course it has to be permanent. It has to be decentralized. Decentralized meaning that no one owns it, no one controls it. The art world is not going to accept, some Dr. Evil in charge of the Provenance database. They're not going to allow it. It's like AOL. AOL gave that a shot. AOL tried to control the internet, what people could see on the internet. Look how well did that work out for them? It didn't work out too well for AOL. That's same thing with the Provenance database. It has to be decentralized. It has to be immutable. So immutable means it can't be hacked. Obviously, this is about the same as having to be permanent. Of course, it can't be hacked. You can't be able to change records or add fake records. It's got to be immutable. It also has to be anonymous. And what I mean by that is it's got to be from the collector standpoint. It needs to be anonymous because collectors don't necessarily want people to know what art pieces they own, and they want to be able to transfer it anonymously. So the database that would do this would need to be anonymous. And the problem is, there's not a single database on the planet that has any one of these properties, okay? Conventional databases, they're not permanent. They're all centralized. Every database has been hacked. Every time you see a news story about a hack, what they're hacking is the database. Every time. Anonymous, there's no such thing as an anonymous database. Right? Until, na, 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 ba, bong, 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 bong. The Bitcoin blockchain is the database that stores all the Bitcoin transactions. This is the first database, okay, in the history of man that it's not only permanent, okay, it's not only decentralized, it's not only immutable, but it's also anonymous. This is an idea that was spawned out of the mind of a single monkey. It's one of the most significant inventions of all time. This is unbelievable that there's a database in the world now that has all 4 of these properties. To me, it's top 5 inventions of all time, maybe top 3, and except for the atomic bomb, I think it could get to top 1. Nothing's ever going to surpass the atomic bomb. That's the power to destroy the planet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it got to number 2. That's how significant I think this invention is. A lot of people try to, argue, debate with me about these properties. And I don't mind debating them, except there's only one property I don't really like debating, and that's the immutability of it. Some crypto nerds in this space want to, they want to debate the immutability of the Bitcoin blockchain. They think, for whatever reason, maybe they own an altcoin or whatever, they want to try to argue with me and say, oh no, the Bitcoin blockchain's been hacked or is hackable. And this is just, I'm sorry, it's just idiotic because there's $60 billion of value stored in the Bitcoin blockchain. If you could hack a Bitcoin wallet, I would move down to my basement, sit in my underwear, and do it all day long and twice on Sunday. But you can't. It's not happened. And it's not going to happen. This is why people trust there's $60 billion in value. I have a Bitcoin wallet, and I'm not afraid in the least. Someone scanned my Bitcoin wallet at the show here, and the reason he did that, it was a crypto nerd, and he's trying to tell me he can hack my Bitcoin address, and my Bitcoin wallet, and I wasn't worried at all. I'm like, go for it. I let him scan it. I'll look at it right now. It's my Bitcoin still there. He's not going to be able to hack it. I'm way more worried that this wallet's going to get hacked. Okay, that happens every day. This one scares me. That's why I don't carry much in this, right? This one you can hack. The Bitcoin wallets, they can't be hacked. The other properties, the permanency of it. This is the only blockchain. There's a lot of blockchains out there, altcoins, private blockchains. I'm telling you, this is the only blockchain that's going to have these 4 properties. Like permanency, the Bitcoin blockchain is the one that's going to last forever. Decentralized, the other 2, decentralized, anonymous, other blockchains have that. But the permanency one, That's key, and the Bitcoin blockchain is going to be permanent, again, because it has $60 billion. The Ethereum blockchain, that's been hacked more times than I can count with the fingers on my hand and maybe the toes on my feet. The Ethereum blockchain's hacked. It is hackable. It has been hacked. Other than that, you're down to a difference between 60 billion and 2 billion for the next altcoin. The Bitcoin blockchain is clearly the one that's going to survive, if any of them survive, and of course it will survive, because of these properties. So that's why if you're going to implement a Provenance system, you want to use the Bitcoin blockchain, at least in my opinion. So I'm not the first monkey who, I was watching the movie Dope. My head popped off the couch when I saw the last scene in the movie, and I'm like, oh my God, is this real? Could this happen? And I almost thought immediately, well, you should do a Provenance database with this blockchain. I'm not the only monkey that realized this. And there's many different. There's probably 10 other companies that are working on Provenance systems now. It seems like a new one pops up every week. It's like whack-a-mole. But this slide is a representation, at least again in my opinion, how I perceive these other blockchain-based Provenance systems, platforms. The way they've done it is they have a conventional website and a conventional database that's used with that website, implemented with that website, that all the artists and all the collectors, they all interface with this conventional website in the same way as any conventional database. And then for each Provenance record, they record a little something out on the blockchain. So like in their platforms, they're like 90% conventional website, and they're 10% blockchain. And this reminds me, or this is to me, it's like this story here. This company, it was called, I think, Long Neck Iced Tea. I think it was Long Neck Iced Tea. They changed their name to be Blockchain Iced Tea, and when they did that, just because they changed the name of their company, their stock skyrocketed nearly 500% because they had, because the word blockchain is in their company name, and that's just ridiculous. I mean, you can't just say that you're blockchain based. I wish it could do that. I mean, I wish I could say, I'm king of the world and be king of the world, right? Like, go get me some coffee. I'm king of the world, right? It doesn't work that way. It's not. You can't just say you're blockchain based without really implementing a system that is blockchain based. So this is a representation of my platform, and I flip that model on its head. In my platform, I do have a conventional website and a conventional database, but that's only 10% of my platform. Okay, my platform is 10% conventional website, 90% blockchain. And there's several different reasons why this is true, but one of the reasons is when a collector interfaces with my platform, they do so only using Bitcoin transactions. They don't log into my conventional website. So the conventional website is called ArtChain.info. And the artists, they interface with the conventional website in order to register each piece. But once each piece is registered using on the Bitcoin blockchain, all the collectors, all they do is they just do Bitcoin transactions in order to prove they own a Provenance record, or if they want to transfer an art piece that they own and they want to transfer the Provenance record, they just do a Bitcoin transaction. Okay? This means that they're using the Bitcoin protocol, which means if you're using the Bitcoin protocol, you are truly blockchain based. It's truly permanent, decentralized, immutable, and anonymous. It takes advantage to the best possible extent these four properties, because again, my system is 90% blockchain. I think the reason that these companies, basically my competitors, the reason they implement it this way is because they want a centralized system. They want to be able to control it. They want to control the provenance database. Of course, that's probably the main reason why they do it this way. They want to throw something out on the blockchain so that they can put blockchain in their company name, basically. But other than that, it's not a blockchain-based system. So. This is an example of a digital certificate of authenticity that my website generates. And unless you've done some Bitcoin transactions, it's kind of hard for me to explain it. It'll probably put you to sleep. Everyone would probably leave. But in a nutshell, what this certificate is showing, it shows the image of the piece, the description, and it shows this chain of ownership in Bitcoin addresses. So with my system, the simplest explanation I can say is that the Bitcoin address, the current owner, the last Bitcoin address in the chain, they can prove they own the piece because that Bitcoin address, it stores the art piece. That's how you can think of it the easiest way. This Bitcoin address, the last one, it can store Bitcoin, or it can store this art piece. It's basically the same thing. And we're like, if it's Bitcoin, if you want to transfer the Bitcoin to someone else, you do a Bitcoin transaction. Same thing with this piece of art. You want to transfer this certificate of authenticity, you do a Bitcoin transaction from the current owner's Bitcoin address to the new owner's Bitcoin address. And that is recorded on the blockchain permanently. And then when our site goes out and looks at the blockchain and can see that the new chain, the new link, and basically just follows it to the last address in the chain. Again, all a collector is doing, a collector would want to do one of two things. He either wants to prove that he owns this certificate, or he wants to transfer it. He can prove that he owns the certificate by just transferring a little bit of Bitcoin out of this address. And that proves he controls the address, which means it proves he controls the certificate, which means there's a 99% chance or probability that the art piece that is connected to that address is authentic. It comes from the artist. So one of the things I realized working on this project is it would be good if I could illustrate what I'm talking about, end to end. What's it going to look like at the end? And I think in the future, every online listing for an art piece, like whether if you're looking at a gallery website or Artsy or even eBay, an eBay listing, every piece of art listed for sale in the future, eventually, is going to include a link to a digital certificate of authenticity. So someone looking at the listing, if they want to make sure it's authentic before they buy it, they can click on that link and they can see the digital certificate, and they can say, well, if you really own this piece, just transfer a little bit of Bitcoin from your address to my address, and that proves to me that you own this piece. So we published another website. It's an online gallery, and it's called the name of the website is bitcoingallery.com, and we already have, I've seen something like over 500 pieces of art registered and listed in this gallery. 500 pieces by, I think, over 120 artists. It's like $10 million of art. And every single piece of art on this bitcoingallery.com online gallery every piece is registered on the Bitcoin blockchain using ArtChain.info. So we've got some fairly significant artists here. You might recognize some of them: Deborah Zapardi, Alec Monopoly, Alexei Butirsky. The Dolly piece was actually registered by a gallery. Hiro Ando is pretty big. Eric Zenner, Randy Ford, Gilles Revel, Bellevue, Gary Comarin. These are pretty big artists. And again, there's like 120 that are participating. So again, let's say someone is browsing these these listings, and they click on Deborah Azzopardi. This page shows, that Deborah Azzopardi on this website, on this gallery, has 2 pieces for sale, and each piece has a image of the piece and a description of the piece, and the price. But most importantly, in my mind, is it has a link to the ArtChain.info registration page. It's a link to the digital certificate of authenticity that's recorded on the Bitcoin blockchain. And so, you're looking at the piece. Well, yeah, I'm interested in this piece. So if you click on that link, up comes the ArtChain digital certificate, which we were just looking at before. And again, so someone's interested in buying that piece. They want to make sure it's authentic. They ask the owner, the person selling the piece, the entity, and they say, yeah, that looks good. I'm ready to buy, but before I buy, prove it's real. Transfer some Bitcoin out of that address to my address, and then I'll believe it's actually authentic. It was actually painted by Deborah Azzopardi and registered by her. Okay, these are registered by Deborah Azzopardi, and the way she registers each piece is she has her own master Bitcoin address, and she transfers Bitcoin from her address to an art piece address that she creates, and then when she sells the piece, she transfers Bitcoin from that art piece address to the buyer's address, right? And then the buyer is the one in control. Right? The buyer is the only one that has the private key for this last Bitcoin address. We bought this piece from Deborah Azzopardi, so I own that Bitcoin address. And if you want me to prove I own it, I'll transfer a little bit of Bitcoin to one of your addresses, and that proves I own that address. It proves I own this certificate. And it links, the chain of ownership links all the way back to Deborah Azzopardi. Again, there's a 99% probability that the Deborah Azzopardi piece that I'm holding is authentic. It was from Deborah, and she actually registered this piece on ArtChain. So it's just, it's an example in my mind of the ridiculous power of the Bitcoin blockchain. The cryptocurrency, a lot of people look at Bitcoin and they want to think of it only in terms of the cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency is just an application of the Bitcoin blockchain. It's not the invention. It's like the internet is the invention and the websites are the application of the internet. The Bitcoin blockchain is the internet, and the cryptocurrency is just an application of that innovation. The price of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency is completely irrelevant for something like this, a Provenance system. My Provenance system doesn't care what the price of Bitcoin is. Either does the Bitcoin blockchain. Doesn't care. To a certain extent, the price has to stay high enough to reward the miners, to keep them maintaining the blockchain. And I guarantee you that's going to happen. But other than that, the Bitcoin blockchain as an innovation doesn't care what the price is. It doesn't. The power of it, the power is there regardless of price. It's like looking at the price of oil, I don't care what the price of oil is, it's always going to have power. It's the same with Bitcoin. So, I would recommend to anybody, everyone I talk to, you don't be afraid of it. Don't listen to Warren Buffett. That's you do. If you ignore Bitcoin, you do so, at your own detriment. You should download a little bit of Bitcoin. You should buy a little Bitcoin, like $5 worth. I'm not saying don't invest in Bitcoin necessarily, but buy $5 worth. Play with it. Do some transactions. Learn about it. Learn about how it works. Learn about the Bitcoin blockchain. Learn about its 4 properties. And if you don't do this, well, back to the Dawn of Man. In the Dawn of Man scene, I don't know if you remember, but there was a scene where there were the 2 clans of monkeys. The 2 clans of monkeys, they were warring, they were fighting over a watering hole. And one clan of monkeys had the femur bone monolith, all right? And the other clan of monkeys, they didn't have that technology. So, which clan of monkeys do you think won that war? You know, I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the clan of monkeys without the femur bone, okay? It was the clan of monkeys with the femur bone that literally beat the other clan into submission until they slinked off into defeat. That scene is such a cool scene. It's such a profound scene because it's so relevant across the history of man. You know, all innovation, technology, this is what advancement, you know, the human advancement's about, and it's the monkeys that wield the technology. Those are the ones that control the resources of the world. It is what it is, and that's just undeniable. So Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain is no different. You ignore it literally at your own peril. And I'll give you an example, okay? Two artists at the same level, let's say, two popular artists, same level of sales, price. And let's say, you know, one decides they're going to adopt the Bitcoin blockchain to do their provenance, and the other artist doesn't do that. Well, you know, I think there's a good chance the artist that adopts the technology is going to do better. You know, he's going to be the advantaged monkey. That's why he'll do better. And so, you know, this is what I recommend to everybody. Learn about the Bitcoin, learn about the Bitcoin blockchain, and so that you can become an advantaged monkey. You know, otherwise, you're going to be left behind. And to learn about it is so simple. You know, again, it's $5. It's a cup of coffee to play around with it. Imagine that you didn't. Imagine you ignored the internet. I mean, imagine that. That's the same thing. You ignored the internet. You're in the Stone Age. So, you know, Bitcoin and the power of the Bitcoin blockchain, what it represents as an invention, is something that's it's not going to be ignored, for sure, but the sooner that you figure that out and start looking at it and learning about it, the better off you're going to be. I guarantee it. You know, one of the show presenters was talking to me earlier today, and she's, you know, concerned, or, well, I don't know about Bitcoin because the price, you know, is the price ever going to go up? And like, it's just, that's not the way to look at it. It's not about the price. It's about the power. And it's got ridiculous power. This is a ridiculous invention. So in any event, you know, part of my presentation is, of course, to try to promote my blockchain system. But it's also, you know, I'm just like one of the excited monkeys. I love talking about this invention. And, you know, I'm here to jump up and down about my monolith, but also about the Bitcoin monolith. It's exciting. And the fact that you're here, you know, you're excited about it too, or at least interested. Well, and that's a good thing. You know, you'll be the advantaged ones. So anyway, that's basically my presentation. I want to thank the LA Art Show for letting me do this presentation. And I have a booth here. It's number 243. And a lot of the art that's on BitcoinGallery.com is in our booth. If you want to come by, take a look at the art, take a look at what we're doing. You can ask us some questions. I'd be happy to talk about it. And you know, you'll learn more about Bitcoin and our Provenance system. So, yeah, you know, thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of the show. It's a great show.